On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style. I am here with an amazing guest. I'm very happy this finally happened. There was a couple rumors talking to your VP of Sales a couple times that I might have been able to get you on the channel, but I was in a different place back then, and I'm just glad to have one of my favorite people, for the crusade that we've all been on, Mike Lindell. It is an amazing privilege to have you on my channel. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, it's a privilege, and I'm glad this worked out. I can't even tell you how cool this is. I kind of wanted to get into a little bit of who you are for my audience. My audience knows I talk a lot. Of course, it's on the Fringe. MyPillow.com/OTF. You guys are well aware of my coupon code, and we'll of course this will be awesome. But I wanted to kind of get into the one thing that I think is really beautiful that you have right now is you have an outreach for people that are on drugs, and you actually offer it up free of charge, to my understanding. So you have a past that involved a lot of substance abuse use, and I wanted to kind of ask, I mean, just for the people that are maybe in my audience that might have similar experiences, when was that point where you really felt like I have lost control? And I know you found God, and that's kind of my next question, if you will.
Well, mine's quite a journey. We use up about probably 10 hours talking about it, but I quit everything. I was a crack cocaine addict. I was a gambler. I was an alcoholic, you name it. And on January 16, 2009, by the grace of God, I quit everything overnight. I prayed that I would never have the desire again, and I woke up the next morning and the desire was gone.
Literally.
Now, did I ever go get help after that? Yeah, a couple months later. If you ever read my book, I went to a place at our church called Living Free because I wanted to find out why I was an addict in the first place. But in this journey I was on, though, since those days, I thought that was the actual day that I was saved because it was such a different overnight. It just was a completely change. And when that did happen, by the way, now was that my bottom? People say, "Well, you're out of money. You finally reached your bottom." Well, money wasn't a thing. I made sure I didn't have anything left, so that with God, all things are possible. I was going to make the biggest comeback ever, and but that day, I knew that if I waited one more day, what my calling was, my second, I compared it to we used to work at a drive-in movie theater years ago, and we had the first feature and the second feature. Well, the second feature of my life was not going to be an option anymore after that day. It was wherever this path was leading me. And calling everything, I just had this feeling it would be gone. That we couldn't make one more day.
Was it
But
just
then
this
after that,
overwhelming feeling that you had that
yeah,
drove you?
yeah, and it wasn't anything worse than any other day, or whatever. But a lot of things had built up to that, and I knew God had this big calling for me, and which we all have callings, and that would have been gone. Someone else would have been picked. It would have been done. But that wasn't. I woke up and that was the day I thought that I was saved, and it wasn't until everybody wait on this February 18th, 2017.
Oh, wow.
The day I surrendered and gave my life to Jesus Christ. So there's a lot of stuff. I always look in my book, what are the odds from crack addict to CEO? One of the things that starts out was we have things in our life that we go, wow, the odds of that happening are 1 in 1,000,000, or that's 1 in 1 billion, or that's impossible. Well, when do you add them together and consider it a miracle? So God kept chasing me, and I'm going, show me more, show me more. And I will tell you one quick example. When I ended up in the White House in 2017, and I walked in there for the first time in my life, I'm going, how am I even in here with my record? Okay. And I look around, I get to, there's all these seats, and there's one seat here doesn't have a name tag. And I said, who's sitting there? He said, the president is. I'm going, whoa.
Yeah.
Well, I went live to the nation. Okay. Live to the nation. It was just us two and all my friends back home. Some of them still on crack, some of them off, it didn't matter. They look up and they go, what is this ex-crack addict sitting next to the president? Jesus is real, because this would be impossible.
Well,
So that's.
don't you think the Lord does kind of seek out people that are, I don't want to say damaged, but people that have fallen and know how to get back up? It seems for this fight, because I think a lot of us are sinners that are truly
Oh,
trying
yeah.
to do this with our hearts and souls right now. And a lot of this, I think we are somewhat broken people that are
Oh,
desperately,
100%.
and I
100%.
almost feel like that's part of the fingerprint of needed, almost to
Yeah.
start this,
Yeah, I
this
think
movement.
if I wouldn't have had my past, I couldn't have got through this last 4 years, and especially this last year have been the hardest times I've ever had to go
Yeah, I was
through.
gonna
The
say,
attacks on my pillow. You bring up that Lindell Recovery Network. These are papers right here. This is last week served to me by the Attorney General of Minnesota, that they're coming after my recovery
are
network.
you kidding
This is
me?
Keith Ellis, and they're coming after it. They don't want it around. They're against Jesus. They're against my pillow. They don't want
Wow.
Mike Lindell talking about our elections platforms ever again. And so this is
Wow.
a full-blown attack by the Attorney General of Minnesota, and it's disgusting.
Are there places where people can help if they have the means to, I mean,
Yeah,
is
if
help
you
even
go to, you guys, we can use the help, but I'm the one that's put in all the money for all that, like my
you paid for the two
foundation
Springfield things
company.
I went to, and I told my audience all about
Yeah,
those. I went to both of them, and yeah, I mean,
yeah.
you put
If you
yourself
guys
a
want to help, if you want to help the Recovery Network, this is a free online platform for addicts. It's LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. You can go there. I would appreciate any donation you can do to help out. I put all my money has been put out there to help save the country, and they still need that. Now the attorney general trying to destroy the platform.
yeah,
It's free.
yeah.
Before it was all financed by me, but I can sure use help now because this is God's platform, so it's LindellRecoveryNetwork.org. The other thing, if you all want to do the stuff that's going on with all the election stuff, if you ever want to see what's going on or help out there, that's LindellPlan.com. There's
LindellPlan.com. Awesome.
places.
Awesome. Yeah. Again, I frequently talk about putting your money where your
Zoom
mouth
in a
is.
little bit.
And I think without a doubt, that's one of the most beautiful things about you. In fact, I would say almost abundantly
Escape.
so that you've done this. So I appreciate the efforts you've
Skip.
done. One, everything's good. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Okay.
We got
Good.
a
Good.
problem in the background.
Okay. No problem. No problem.
Get her. Okay. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just happy to have time with you, sir. It's okay.
Right.
You're running a company at the same time. You and like Elon Musk. I don't know how you guys do it, but finding
That's
God in your life. Obviously, that was when you were truly saved. But there was a number of years in there. I would just say maybe what was one of the bigger lessons, or where if there's any sort of way, because I feel like that's like a beautiful part of your journey and how
sure.
you truly became saved with everything that you've been through in a I think 9 year process, so 12 year whatever 12 years maybe even it was a long time. So yeah, I just wondered if you had anything you wanted
You
to.
mean the time from when I quit everything to when I
Yes,
was saved?
yeah, it was
Okay.
what's '07 I think
All,
to 19 was it?
yeah. From '09 to
'09,
2017.
17. Okay,
And these weren't bad things, everybody, that happened during that time. These were things that were impossibilities, that happened. Here's a guy I had never voted in my life. I didn't know a Democrat from a Republican. Seriously, I didn't know anything about politics. So here's for an example. I had a dream in 2015 that I was going to meet Donald Trump, and I get these God dreams, so to speak, and I'm going, why would I want to meet him? I had never watched The Apprentice or nothing, and it was a very distinct dream. And then all of a sudden he comes down the elevator, he's running for president. I'm going, whoa, maybe this does, is something here. Well, of course, I had to find out quick if I was I'm asking questions about politics and stuff, and well, it gets to be things that would happen like um, you go into even the meeting with him, the divine appointment in August of 2015. As we got closer to the election, um, of the summer of 2016, I actually was on a plane going to do a movie, and I had got up in the plane. It was towards the end of July of 2016, and I remember I grabbed a book about Donald Trump then, this magazine, and I was sitting in the bulkhead of the airport of the airplane, and my phone was set to click or to beep if I got an email back then. A reminder. I got this new phone, hadn't turned it off, so I set my internet or whatever, and I opened this magazine, and I just kind of shut it, and I said, God, now remember, I'm not saved yet, but I would still pray to God all the time, and I'm going, God, I need to know right now if I'm supposed to meet Donald Trump, I need to know right now. And at that moment in time, the exact moment in time, my phone dinged. It said, it's an email. It says, Mike, this is Donald Trump. Will you meet me in New York City on August 15th? I look up and go, God? It wasn't I was going to meet Donald Trump, as I was
Uh,
answered in real time for my
wow.
prayer. And I'm bawling on the plane going, this is a miracle. And the guy next to me, he couldn't speak English. He's all, are you okay? Whatever. And the flight attendants, I go, yeah, everything's great. Everything's great. And but things like that were, like I say, impossibilities. It's impossible that, like I say, when I walked in that White House, that was a surreal moment for me going, it's a miracle with my record, my past, and just different things that kept happening. And it was, I'll tell you an example. When I was writing my book in 2015, this pastor was at, at, my office, and we had all the transcripts of my book. I had transcribed all the stories of my book out on this big table. There was hundreds of them, and of all the stories of my life, I had 14 near-death experiences, all these different things. And I said to that pastor, I said, you know what? I'm kind of stuck here. I don't know what to leave in or what to leave out. And he goes, Mike, pick any pile. I just grabbed one thing. I picked December 1986. He goes, read it. And I read it, and he goes, the normal person, he called it any person would have got to their knees and surrendered to God just on that story alone. And he said, maybe all this is happening to you in your life so that you can't, so that is for you, that you will finally surrender, knowing that these things, all these impossibilities and these miracles, both good and bad, to dig you out. And he said, and he was right. I mean, I remember thinking that. And then things started happening after that day. I always had the miracles of, fell asleep on a motorcycle, crashed it. I was going skydiving that day, crashed the bike, got back up. It was my last static line jump before I would free fall. And I got down there after I crashed the motorcycle, get down there in time to jump, and my parachute didn't open. So all in the same day. So I had things like this that happened going, wow, this is a miracle. But things would happen like that to me so often, I almost got complacent going, I'd be in jail going, God, please get me out of here, but I'll never do this again. And I call those reactionary prayers, though. Sometimes it's not God's timing or God's will.
Well,
But anyway,
it's
so
almost.
this is
I'm sorry.
so between 2009 and when I was saved on February of 2017, these were different things. These were impossibilities. I use mathematics to prove that God exists, and everybody can do that. We're living a miracle right now in the times we're in. It's a miracle what's happened, even with this election, and we're in so many times right now where miracles are just unfolding before our eyes.
It is. It's amazing how it's playing out right now, and I 100% agree with that. One aspect I guess I wanted to ask you about, because I do talk a lot of weird spiritual stuff, and I think it's kind of cool to cover this angle of it. But you were so hard to surrender to this, right? It took many, many, many things, lots of proof, and eventually you got that. And then once you were anchored in, once you were good and rooted, what's funny how things played out for you. Yes, there was this giant rise, I assume, from the timings of things. But then what happened when you were actually out there fighting for this country and trying to help with election integrity, the way they attacked you, the way they took you out of box stores, the way they made it almost impossible for you, yet you continued to persevere, almost like you were used to extreme tough situations
Right.
before you were even about to buckle that knee. Because
Right.
really, it bent your knee finally to Jesus, of course, but
Hmm.
ultimately you were here to fight the fight for him, and you were not
Right.
about to buckle your knee for
Right.
anybody. I
It
just,
was
that's one of the things I've loved about you. Sorry, please.
right. Yeah, my sister said to me one time, she goes, this is when I quit that overnight back then. She goes, you have a calling that is so huge. And she said, and I always thought it was just to get addicts off their addictions, right? That's what I thought back then. And then she had told me once, she goes, no, it's bigger than you could ever imagine. And I remember telling this kind of a good story. I was up for 14 days once on crack cocaine, and the drug dealers did this weird intervention on me. And
You're almost gonna
and
die.
I go down to the streets of Minneapolis after. He goes, "How much crack you have left?" And go down there, and I looked at, I showed him how much crack. The other two left. They kind of run the section of Minneapolis, and I looked over and he was asleep. Okay, and I was already carpet farming, scraping the pipe. I headed down the streets of Minneapolis, and I get back up there, and I couldn't get crack anywhere. Nobody would sell it to me. They had got the word out. 2:30 in the morning, get back upstairs. The one dealer goes, or he says, how'd that work out for you? And I was so upset. And he goes, man, you've been telling us for years that you're going to come back someday and help and quit everything and come back and help us all out of this drug world we're living in. And I was their hope. And he said, give me your phone. I'm going to take a picture for that book you said you're going to write someday. That picture is on the cover of
I
this
love
book
it. Yeah,
that
I
he
love
wrote
that.
that night.
That's one of the coolest
And
parts about that.
but one part I hardly ever tell is I slept then for 2 days and I had to get back to my pillow. I was working out of a little tiny place in Carver, Minnesota. I had a warrant out for my arrest, and um, but I had to get there and get something to my brother, or my pillow wouldn't be here. Take the chance of not getting stopped, arrested. So I head out from Minneapolis. I get there, and it was like going to this old schoolhouse. And sure enough, Larry the cop, I pass him coming out of there, and there's no way for me to escape. I had the papers. I had to get to my brother. My pillow's not here. He goes, Mike, stop, stop. And I go, I did stop. I go, Larry, this is exactly what I said to him. I go, I have to get to these to my brother. I said, I said, it has something to do with God in the future. It's going to affect millions and millions of people if I don't get this to him. And I said, I don't know what it means. And I said, and besides, Larry, I said, you're going to arrest me anyway. And if I'm not found guilty, if I'm found guilty next Tuesday, I promise you can arrest me anytime. And I promise I'll have cocaine on me. This is what I said to him. Now, fast forward 9 years later, 9 years later, this is like 2017 or 18. Went back to my hometown and we were doing a big parade and we were throwing out little pillows to the kids. I hadn't seen Larry in 9 or 10 years. And because Larry did let me give that to my brother and I never
That was
seen him
nice of him.
since. And I was found innocent, right?
Nice.
So anyway, that time.
You didn't have to
So
have
anyway,
cocaine on
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Thank God.
So, right. So anyway, I pulled down the hill with our float, and I hear "Roo, roo, roo," like the good old days, and here comes Larry, and he looks at me, and goes, "Did you? Do you?" He goes, "Am I in that book? Do you know what I did for the people?" So he had remembered. And I go, Larry, and he goes, "Do you remember what I said to you back then?" And he goes, he recited it word for word. I go, "Well, why would you believe me?" He goes, "Mike, you believed it," and he said, "You were always so transparent." And he said, "Who was I going to change history?" But that I think about that, and you know what God's did. He gave me a platform that I was totally. I couldn't talk to people. I had fear of rejection in my book. I couldn't talk to crowds. I'm going, what a sense of humor. You're going to put this guy out there, but all the things in my life to be able to withstand what's happened over the last 4.5 years. My company's been attacked more than any company in history. I wake up every single day, 18 hours a day. I did for 4 years, trying to warn the country, save the country, get to paper ballots and count. And all I did was get attacked for it and attacked for it. And to this day, right to this day, they want me to be quiet. And how I got through was maybe the past, but also with the grace of God that God's given me this, that, hey, it's all going to be okay no matter how bad it gets. I've had to use that so much every day I wake up, including this morning. You wake up and go, God, let's get through one more day as my pillow, my company, or my employee-owned company gets attacked. And it's disgusting.
Yeah, you've been through so much to get to where you're at, and again, how much money you've put on your own line, and that kind of ties into my next question, which I went to two of your election integrity things out in Springfield, Missouri. By the way, a very interesting town. It was just it was a fantastic event, other than the fact it was freezing cold. I'm sure you heard that many, many times, but it was amazing what you were doing. You were bringing a lot of people together to talk about election integrity and all that. And then the second one, the most recent one, you flew a freaking drone in that had some tech. So I'm kind of wondering, because I know that tech's used all over the place. They're scanning a lot of like the Colorado thing they got together for Bernie Sanders and AOC, and they were able to figure out roughly how many cell phone numbers were out there. So I'm just kind of wondering, you've done a lot, and it seems like, to me anyways, and maybe I'm missing something, but almost like you fell off the radar a little bit. And I'm just kind of wondering, is there still anything that's coming from like that phone thing or election integrity or an uncertainty? Yeah.
Here's where it went. That was actually the third cyber
Oh, that's the
symposium that
third
we
one.
were
Okay.
talking about. The first one was very famous. It planted seeds. It was the cyber symposium in August of 21. And that was when that happened, everyone went back to their home states and they dug in and said, hey, we have problems, okay, with these machines, these voting machines. The one you're talking about was in August
Yeah.
of 23.
Yeah, I guess I just got to go to the last two. Sorry, I didn't realize I
Yeah.
missed one.
August of 23. And when that happened, everybody, we were watching the elections with these devices because one of the big lies they told everybody was the machines are not on the internet. They're all on the internet, everybody. I mean, every one of them, every single one, they're lying. And that's the big lie. We've proven that over and over and over again. In fact, they had an election in South Carolina. I believe it was the 23 election. And they said, oh, we're shut down. The county is shut down or the voting is shut down because the internet's down. Well, I thought you weren't on the internet. And
Yeah.
but anyway, those devices that would detect things that are on the internet, that would detect things, we used them in the 23 election. You had places like Kentucky, North Carolina, or Virginia. Everything was online. So now, but what happened was in August of 23, the one you were at, I came out with a plan to secure our elections. Here, hand it to me, please. We came up with a plan to secure our elections. And when I came out with that plan, uh, that's when the attacks. Remember, I was attacked in January of 21, where all the box stores canceled. I was the number one person out there. They're shooting my company full of holes. And this attack in January or in August of 23, right up to, as I said here, has been something I don't believe any company in the world has ever sustained or any person has sustained like this, what happened to me. They were, after that when you were at, I was debanked. My pillow was debanked, demerchant server, millions of dollars of credit squish where people attacked. American Express dropped us for no reason. We've never been late in our lives. And this is on the heels of me spending my life savings, 30 or $40 million for the past 4 years on helping anyone in this country that had anything to do with the elections. That's not counting the lawsuits, right?
Right.
So, and everyone says, well, wow, those attacks, how do you just survive? My pillow's here by the grace of God. I mean, that's it. And
And it's an amazing product.
I remember the box or the um, the newspapers. The Washington Post came to my hometown here, and they came and questioned people all over town, going, "When's Mike Lindell? Is he ever going to give up on this?" And one friend called me up, Paul. He says, "The Washington Post asked me if you'd ever give up and ever stop." And I said, "No. Once he believes in something, he's 100% all in. You'll have to kill him." That's what he was all worried about. I go, I'm sure they thought about that. But people say
You'd
to me
probably
all,
still find a way to come back and talk to us, though, knowing you. You're a very determined man, it seems.
right, yeah. Well, no, I told people it don't matter if I run out of money. I will borrow money. I've borrowed millions already now. If you've seen or know what I know, we don't have a country if we don't get rid of these devices and have secure elections. I've said it and I'll say it again. 132 countries have banned electronic voting devices. 132 countries. The last one being Argentina. They changed to paper ballots in 4 months. And over 100 countries have banned early voting and mail-in voting. And we have the worst election platforms in world history. Now, since the president won on November 5th, they have turned up the heat on me and attack now more than ever.
Oh, wow.
And they ask yourself, everybody, why would they do that? Because they want me to shut up about the election platforms, and
We've got elections
that was
coming
their
up.
big plan.
Yeah.
So Donald Trump wins, and everyone's going, oh, there's no problem with our elections. Look at Donald Trump won. You guys, they stole 4 senators and 9 congressmen in this last election. And I'll tell you what, you're on the heels here of this interview. What a blessing. March 25th, 2020 will go down in history. The things that happened yesterday, everybody, with our great president doing an executive order to start this process, voter ID, paper ballots without QR codes and barcodes, all these things he did yesterday. And at the same time, 3 other states, Arkansas says, you know what? These machines aren't certified. We're going to get them gone. And New York City,
Yep.
the
The
Supreme Court
citizens.
overturned the crap they put in 2022,
Yep.
saying that anybody can vote, no ID necessary, any citizen. Well,
There's a
these weren't citizens; these were illegals.
There was a thing in
And they,
Georgia too. There's
yeah,
450 people they removed from the rolls that were
yeah,
dead
and
and
they
moved.
right,
Yeah,
and then you have South Dakota yesterday. All these bills were passed. These
yeah,
were teams that we have on the
it's
ground.
huge.
Remember, everybody, I still have 300,000 people on the ground in all 50 states through the Cause of America and my Election Crime Bureau.
Nice.
I didn't go away. I've just been out here trying to keep my pill. They've had a big distraction. The more they can attack, the more I can't, it takes away my time to be out there leading.
Yeah,
But you know what? We're set up so good. Things move on. So I got news for them. It's too late to close the gate. The cows are out of the barn. We're moving forward and we're getting these. These will be gone. We will have the most secure elections in the history of the world
I
when
love
we're
it.
through here.
I love
And
it.
I'll tell you, and another thing too is it's a shame they go after my pillow, my employee-owned company. You would have thought the box stores would have came back. Now
Yeah.
this fall, some of them did. They put
Oh,
orders in. Just yesterday, we had 4 trucks ready to go out, and we got notice. We still don't know why. They canceled their order. So I'm going to tell everybody right now. This is a good time to probably tell you what happened and what we're doing
yeah, for
again at
sure.
My Pillow.
And
We
I've had
have
the thing up at the bottom the whole time for my
Right.
link.
We
By the
have
way,
all these sheets. We have these
love them.
Percale sheets and Giza Dream sheets, the best sheets in the history of the planet. What instead of selling them to the box stores for $29.98 the Percale, we're going to sell them to you for that. The
What?
promo code OTF. Use that promo code, you guys. You guys are what's saving my pillow. That and God protecting us. But we need the sale. We have all these we're allotted for the box stores. We're going to sell to you king size per kill. 34.98.
What?
That they're regularly 99.98 per set. These are the best sheets in history. Then you have our Giza Dream sheets. Over those are I think the queen size there is 69.98, the lowest price in the history of My Pillow. So,
Wow.
and you do that, and you guys can call 800-854-4398, but use that code, your promo code OTF. You guys, these are exclusive sales. We're reaching out, no middleman now. You know what? I've had it with these box stores, this cancel culture and all these attacks. This is, they go, well, he's got all his money tied up in inventory now, what little we have left. Well, you know what? We need your help, and this would really help my employees because that's it. I need to have peace every day that my employees and my pillows taken care of. And I'll tell you what, we're out there with our voice. And there's another thing too. If you guys, Lindell TV, I've set that up because Lindell TV, everybody, LindellTV.com. We're right at the White House now. I have a person inside the White House, a White House correspondent, and I have one in Capitol Hill. And I got Rudy Giuliani. He's with Lindell TV.
Oh,
He's got his show, my show,
good, good.
Emerald Robinson. This is the place to get your news. We're going to tell you the news, not like Fox where you're not getting any news that means anything.
For sure.
I always say, don't go Fox on me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, Mike, it's been a super pleasure having you, and I know we've got you at the end of your time, and your time is valuable. That is for sure. I just wanted to say thank you. Is there maybe I had one question I had, and I don't know. This is like probably trying to pick a favorite child or something, but is there like a premier first thing that really made you fall in love with with your guys' products? I mean, was it the pillow for you, or like what was the first love
I invented
product?
the pillow in 2004, and that was on a necessity. I had tried every pillow out there. Someone go flat, use my arm, flip flop all night, be hot, and
Do you like a
I took
thicker
all
or thinner
the
pillow?
well, there's nothing out there that you could adjust. That's what my pillow is all about.
Yeah.
And I ended up getting a patent on it.
I
You
love
got
that
to
pillow. That was my favorite product, by the way.
as you move it, it holds there. At that time, back in 2004 and 5, the pillows sold to us were the biggest selling non-disposable commodity that didn't work in history. The average American had 6 to 10 pillows per person per household, and they didn't work. Closets, they'd be too high, too low, arm would go flat. And so why not make one you could adjust? And that's what we did. You could
Oh, is that what
adjust it.
okay?
It would hold there. So no matter how big your shoulders were, it didn't matter if you slept stomach, side, or back. And And then I wanted to have everything. When you invent a product, everybody, it's problem solution. I went down the thing. What if someone came up to my booth back then when I was selling and they said, I'll bet you don't have one you can wash and dry. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
I said that took me so many months to develop that because you couldn't wash and dry pillows back then. I'll bet you don't have one you can adjust. Yes, I do. I'll bet you don't have one that stays cool. Yes, I do. I'll bet you don't have one that lasts. 10-year warranty, 60-day money back guarantee. So all these things. Now, if that person said they didn't want the pillow after all that, they didn't want it in the first
Yeah,
place.
yeah. I mean, that
So
was
that's
just
why
that's
that
beautiful.
problem solution, anybody out there that is an entrepreneur and invents something, that, we've sold 84 million My Pillows since I
Dang,
invented it.
dang.
84 million. And that's to about 8 million people have bought the 84 million. So they're buying more. They're buying for their friends, family, whatever. And I want to tell this, everybody, when you get in business, here's a word to all of you out there. If you're inventing something, like I say, problem solution, but no matter what business you're in, you treat every customer like it's your only customer, every employee like it's your only employee. You live by that, and then also watch for deviations. If you have a deviation and you see it's something bad happens, you find out why it happened, how it happened, everything, and don't duplicate it. You see something good happen, and you better duplicate that.
Yeah.
Any deviation in norm, and that's the way it
You're a
is.
numbers
And
guy for sure. Big
yep,
time.
yep,
Love it.
absolutely. So
That was the only way I showed up on your radar, believe it or not. I'm a pretty small channel for some of the stuff I was doing. Mike, I love you, bro. And you actually brought up the last question that I skipped because I didn't think we had time for it, which was, find a problem and solve it. And that's really one of the greatest ways that you can, as somebody that doesn't think you can change the world, believe me, you can. And there's a problem out there that you've got the right knack to solve. Just do it.
right,
That's all you got to do.
absolutely.
Mike, thank you. Is there any last words you want to say before we end this?
Yeah, I'm going to tell everybody this. By the way, everybody, this Rev 7, this is going to be our new product we came out. As you talk about problem solution, we'll talk about
Looks like
that
it's
another
apple
day.
flavored. Looks
But
delicious.
I want to tell everybody this. Okay, I want everybody to keep the faith. And people that come up to me all the time and say, people come up to me all the time and they say, Mike, I prayed and this didn't happen or this didn't happen. I say, you know what? Just like I said earlier in the show, those might not be, those are reactionary prayers. They might not be God's will or God's timing. Where do we find God's will? We find God's will in the Word. You stay in your Bibles, you stay in the Word. Now, everybody, you can be proactive in prayer and they line up beautifully with God's will. That's another reason I can have a peace every day. Like I get attacked every day going, you know what? It's God's will. I'm staying in the Word, proactive. We're just like we look back over these last 4 years. Everything had to happen just the way it did to get to where we're at right now. And it's going to get better and better and better, everybody. So
Amen.
just enjoy where we're at. It's the greatest time to be alive, and we're in the greatest revival for Jesus Christ in history.
Amen. Thank you,
God
Mike,
bless you.
thank you for
Yep.
being on the show. I appreciate you tremendously. Everybody, it's On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.